It's Labor Day weekend. It's a chill Saturday. I went to the gym and I thought to myself, why don't I try to make a prediction for the price of Bitcoin in the near term and even in the future, maybe up to 3 years? Let's look at the charts here. Hmm. Let's go back in time to 2021 and see if we could have caught this top on a weekly chart at $69,000. And if you just quickly look, you see these nice big tops here. And if you just looked at your MACD, you would see this massive, significant divergence. Okay, look at that downward trajectory. That means that price was dying out in these areas, and you should have seen this as your first big warning sign. Now, if you just trade based on the MACD, you hopefully would have exited at the first red bar on the histogram. That means you would have got out somewhere around $50,000. And then if you wanted more info, more data on this, you can see it also proved itself on the RSI. And this was very significant. You're talking about a reading of 95. The next reading at the next top was only about 69. That is very significant, and we can see huge downward pressure because of that. When you see those types of divergences, that significant divergence on a weekly chart, and those actually play out, you can see huge downside potential. And as you can see, we have played out all the way to the Bitcoin bottom, the recent bottom that is, and we're getting a bounce, but we dropped 77 to 78% before we saw a significant kind of recovery. And I believe that this recovery is going to start to fade very, very soon. But it's cool to look at. We did come out of this wedge and we retested it almost immediately on the weekly, and we are starting to rise up. We've seen little pullbacks and things like that. We saw a little flagging pullback here that could have launched us to the upside, but it ended up failing. Now, does it make sense that Bitcoin is seeing some resistance in this area? And the quick answer is yes. If you look back in the past, we blasted past this area and then we used it as support to then launch higher. We went back down, we found support in it again with a bunch of wicks, and then we blasted higher to see our all-time high. Now, as we fall, we are coming past that line and people tried to buy back up. It ended up failing, came out, and now we're seeing a basing structure here, which Bitcoin likes to do these two touches before it bounces. So this is very nice. It gives us one and a second reference, and then we can go. So now we're seeing that movement to the upside that we've been seeing for the past year or so, and it is starting to fail. So now let's just look at Bitcoin on a daily and see what happened. Okay, we ripped up to these levels here. We kind of pulled back and then we bounced up one more time, and then we used the 200-day moving average as support to launch us even higher, creating this nice trend line here for us, which it tested one more time and then it failed. And this consolidation was actually pretty nice. Like, it did not really have any serious teardowns. It's Bitcoin, so it fluctuates very heavy. So you could consider this a serious pullback, but overall, this makes total sense. We've gained some traction right around that 200-day moving average. We launch higher to try to go past these highs. And we do. We actually go past it just a little bit, forming another point of reference that we can mark. And this pullback here is where I was actually wrong. I thought we would come back into this ascending trend line here and bounce off and give us one more touch for a 3-point divergence, and then it would fall off. I was wrong. This actually fell out. It looks like it attempted to retest, but it didn't quite retest, okay? So what I could see happening in the near future is at least a nice little retest, which would match my theory of a bounce in stocks by that CPI day. And then after the CPI day, we will see some sort of plunge. Maybe it looks something like this, and I do believe that we are at least going down to that about 16,500 area. From here, we have to see what happens, but overall, I see it coming into my support zone, which I would call an accumulation zone. Now, this could mean that Bitcoin price bounces around, maybe goes up a little bit, and then tears into it, but also we could just see this thing get a tiny bounce and then rip one more time, and then the move is over. Now let me really zoom out to show you this accumulation zone. Okay, I believe that price is going to come down into here because we've seen some major buyers like these types of prices in the past, right? We get this whole area in here that gained a lot of momentum to then shoot off like a rocket to the moon up to $65,000. So we will look at these areas, but the beginning of this resistance or the support zone, in my opinion, is about $14,000. The low of that being about $3,500. Now, do I think Bitcoin goes to $3,500? I'm just showing it to you because I want you to know it is possible, But most likely, I think what will happen is we will see some sort of retest come down into this zone, possibly around the $10,000 area. Then we will see some sort of bounce, maybe to retest. Then we will do that second dip. That second dip is very important because that most of the time is what causes Bitcoin to then jet to the upside. Now, when I say upside, I want to zoom all the way out because if you look, I have this trend line with these two highs, and I believe we are going to go and test this trend line at some point in the future. I believe there's going to be something that goes on that makes Bitcoin launch up into these areas, possibly to 80,000, possibly to 100,000. It's not that crazy to think of. I mean, people thought that this move was crazy when it was 4,500 and went to 66K. So who's to say that it can't go from 8,000 to 90,000? Okay, so overall in the future, I do see it coming up into this maybe in 2026, 2027, something like that. But I will be paying attention to this in the short term. So the main takeaway from this video is my prediction. It is going to come down into this zone, and you need to be accumulating in these areas. Bitcoin likes to do these funky things. It likes to make a touch, go back up 20%, and then come back down 20, 30%. So we want to be paying attention. We want to be scaling into positions. Possibly with this first touch here, we get a bounce, and then we get the second important touch right here that gives us a daily divergence, and then we might see that huge bull run in the future. Bitcoin is about to crash. It's about to crash very, very hard and give you the opportunity to buy Bitcoin at lower levels. And those levels would be starting at about 14,000, but it can go all the way down to about 3,500 and makes sense. So make sure that you have that zone maybe marked off on your charts. Just take a look at it, maybe accumulate in those types of areas if that's something that you are doing, if you are a Bitcoin trader, and see what happens from there, because I believe that once we base out, we are going to see one of the biggest bull runs in Bitcoin, even bigger than the last one, and you want to be a part of that. If you found something in this video helpful, please like and subscribe. I'm a fairly new channel. It would really help me out, and please leave me a comment. I do like to look at random stocks, penny stocks, and see what I think is going to happen in the future. So I really appreciate you guys watching the whole video. Peace.